You can sacrifice a bishop and win in just 8 moves. First, they go e4, the most popular move. We will go e5 and they will respond knight to f3. We are gonna go knight to f6 and most likely they will take the free pawn. We will go knight to f6, trying to offer our knight, and they will most likely take, because if they go back, they will waste the move. So if they take, we damage our pawn structure, but for a cost. First of all, if they go d3, we are gonna go bishop to f5, bishop to c5, initiating a trap. If they go bishop to g5, we are going to sacrifice the d7. Why are we doing this? Because we are attacking the pawn on f2, and if they take our queen, we take their pawn. They have to move, and to finally checkmate them and put them out of their misery, we are gonna go bishop to g4, and that is checkmate. It is also a pin which is very aggressive. Next, if they go push the pawn, instead of defending the pawn, we are gonna go knight to e4 and attack this pawn on f2. And then what will happen here is that if they go d3, we are gonna go bishop to f5, supporting this pawn. Why are we trying to sacrifice our knight? Because when they take, we will take the pawn on f2. It's a check. They can take or they cannot take. If they first not take, bishop to f4, to make the opponent be forced with our sacrifice, and we just take the queen. In about few moves, we are going to checkmate the king. If they take the bishop, we go straight in for the queen on d1. What if they don't go here? They go here. We will go queen to h4. They might go pawn to g3. We take the pawn on g3. And here is a trap. Because right when the moment we take the pawn on d3, they cannot take because we will take the rook. Or they cannot take because we will take the rook again. If they take our knight, this is check, a fork to the rook. They have to cover. We take the free rook. And that is how you sacrifice your pieces while also winning in the Stafford Gambit. Now let's look at the other lines. What if knight to c3 happens? Defending the pawn with a knight instead of a pawn. So, we are gonna go bishop to f5, initiating again our plan. And now what's different is that they might go d3. We still go knight to g4 and still attack the pawn on f2. Clearly, the idea is to attack the f2 pawn. So keep in mind, in this opening, the Stafford Gambit, we are attacking the pawn on f2 with knight to g4. And so if they go bishop to e3, we take with the knight. They take back. We have a very powerful bishop here in this side of the board, because you're comfortably going to develop your pieces right over here, and white is just cramped over here with almost all the pieces at the background. Meanwhile, you're just cramping him more. Next, if they go bishop to c2 instead, try to mirror our bishop here on this side of the board. We are gonna go knight to g4 and still attack the pawn on f2. Why are we doing this again? Because if they castle, we go queen to h4, attacking this pawn on h2. If they attack our knight, we will... The pressure here is just too much. So we will just take the pawn on f2. Most likely people will panic and go queen to f2. Most likely people will panic and go queen to f3. And the knight starts dancing with knight to h2. That is a check. The king must move. And again, the knight starts to move. And it's a check. They have to move here. And the only way to checkmate the king is this. And so this gambit is so deadly that it has so many traps, and I encourage you to try the Stafford Gambit. It is a very solid gambit with so many traps. If they go bishop to e2, this is the favorite trap from Eric Rosen, and now we are gonna go h5. Why are we doing this? To support the knight to go to g4, because the goal is to attack the f2 pawn, or maybe even the h2 pawn. So, if they go pawn to h3, we go queen to d4, and so they castle. This is so much pressure. We could also sacrifice the knight. And what happens here is that if we sacrifice the knight, they take with a pawn, we take back, this rook here is open. Sacrificing the knight is not for nothing, because if they go pawn to g3, we will go queen to e5. Now, if they go king here, trying to unpin themselves from the bishop, we will go bishop to f2, sacrificing yet again another piece, because if they take rook to h2 check, the king is forced to move out. Queen to g3, queen to g3 check, the king is still forced to move out. And even in this aspect right here, and in this line, we can just castle, and the king will be later and soon be checkmated with just -4 material for checkmate. For some reason, white cannot stop knight to g4. Because if you still stop it with a pawn, we sacrifice the bishop to move out the king to the center. Because what happens is that we check them, the king. They cannot take the knight because we will take their queen. So they must move the king. And what will happen is that we will castle safely and just chilling there. Because if they take the knight, even though we're down 5 plus points of material, I will guarantee you, you will win 100% of the time because of this exposement of the king. It's so exposed. In fact, I mean, sooner or later, he will be checkmated. Bishop to e2 is another move in this position. And we are just going to go h5 to support our knight on 8g4 again. Again, the idea is to go knight to g4 to attack these two key pawns so that we can have a sacrifice or traps. And even if they castle on g1. So what will happen here is that we are gonna bait them to sacrifice our knight, not like a while ago, and we will go queen to d6. That supports the knight. So they have to take, what your opponent will do here is take the knight. And it's still mate in 5 because when we take the pawn on g4, again, this here is checkmate. So they have to go g3, right? No, they cannot go g3 because this is mate. If they go bishop to f4, it's still going to be taken, and this is still mate. Yeah, but what about if they block with a pawn? Again, it's still the same plan. We take, they go here, we take, they go here, and then again we get mate. So, what they can do back in the past is maybe go here, g3. Still again though, it's the same. Because we breach in with a queen on g3, they move the king on h1, and the knight is supporting the square on h2, that's why we put it there. And it's still mate. So, what can white do? Okay, now let's go to maybe the last line. e5 attacks our knight. Well, folks, we still sacrifice. Because we take the pawn on f2. It's still another sacrifice. Because if they first take, we take their queen. And if they don't take, well, folks, it's the same line as earlier, but with a different position, we take their queen. Next thing, if they go bishop to e3, trying to attack this, well, folks, we go queen to h4. What will happen is that we attack the king, they block. It's a losing situation because we will take the pawn. If they take, we take the rook. If they don't take and go here, knight to e4 is a check. The best move is rook here to avoid checkmate. King to e2, and this is mate. But if they don't go king to e2 and instead block with the rook, we still take the pawn on h2, and probably in this position, you're gonna win by +5 advantage. I think those are all the lines of the Stafford Gambit. I think those are all the lines, and this is the Stafford Gambit, by the way. And this is so venomous, so many traps. I recommend you to try it. So much so because it became more unpopular over the years, like today, the present. So, see you guys in the next video. Thank you for watching. And if you did enjoy, please like and subscribe. Or no, I don't know. Peace out.